Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's episode I am going to be chatting about repeat patterns, the different types of repeating patterns you get and the different layouts in which you can arrange your motifs for a specific purpose in mind. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so the first type of repeating pattern, which is probably the most common and most basic type of pattern, is called the full drop or the block repeat pattern. And what happens with the full drop pattern is that it's one block that literally repeats itself on the left and the right perfectly, and then the top and the bottom perfectly. So there's no half drops or anything, it's literally just the same block that repeats itself over and over again, top and bottom. So that is your full drop repeat. I will put a few examples below of what that could look like. And yeah, that's probably the most common type of repeating pattern that you'll find. And it's definitely the easiest one to start making when you are new to making your own repeat patterns. Right, so the second repeat pattern, which is one of my favorite ones, is called the half drop repeat. And what happens with the half drop repeat is you have your block and then you have your second block, but instead of it repeating perfectly left and right, it repeats halfway down from the other one. So then you have this interesting pattern where it's here, a little bit down, then it goes back to the original position, halfway down, back to the original position. And then that pattern will then fit into each other, top and bottom. So it's a bit of an interesting one. It's a half drop. And what I love about it is that it creates a little bit more variation in the design. So for example, if you are designing wallpaper, if you just did the normal full drop repeat or the normal block repeat, the design will be in the exact same place every time. It will be like stripes in a sense. You'll have your horizontal stripe and then your vertical stripe. But with the half drop repeat, it's more interesting because the exact same motif is not going to be right next to the other one. It's going to be in a different place on the pattern. So it just creates a little bit more variation for the eye. And I think it also creates really interesting lines within the design. So as opposed to there just being your standard horizontal and vertical line, with the half drop repeat, what you'll create is also these diagonal lines. And I just think it creates a lot more interest and depth in the design. So quite a few of my wallpaper designs or just pattern designs, I like to incorporate that half drop repeat. Alright, so the third type of repeat pattern is called the brick repeat pattern. Now the brick repeat pattern is very similar to the half drop repeat, but instead of the drop being on the left and right of the design, the drop is at the top and bottom of the design. So if we have our block here, as opposed to it dropping perfectly underneath like that, it's just going to drop slightly off center or in the middle underneath the design. So the reason why it's called a brick design is because it literally maps out the shape of bricks in a wall, where you have the one and then you have the off-centered one and then you have the next one next to it, and so forth and so forth. So that is the brick design. And interestingly enough, I think the brick design is a lot less common than the half drop repeat. Yeah, I know of a lot fewer designs that use the brick repeat pattern, but it's still a beautiful pattern. Again, it gives you that depth, it gives you the diagonal lines as well as the horizontal lines and vertical lines, so there is depth in it, and yeah, it's a beautiful technique to use on your patterns. Alright, so those are the three most common repeat patterns that you will probably find. Another one just to mention will be the random or tossed pattern, where there's a lot less structure to the design. It's almost like you took all your motifs and you sort of just threw it on the page, and then that is your new pattern. So that's the tossed random one. That works really well for fabric because there isn't really a direction to the pattern. So you can literally turn it any way, look at it at any angle, and it will still make sense. So that's really good for fabric. If you are looking at wallpaper, you almost want to map out the design a lot more. There's a lot more intention behind the motifs and where everything sits and all of that. So there's a lot more thought into the direction of the pattern. So generally what you'll have with the wallpapers, for example, is you'll have a repeating pattern that repeats top, bottom, left and right. But what you can also do with wallpaper, for example, is do a two-dimensional layout where it only repeats on the left and the right and not the top and the bottom, which is quite nice as well. So that gives more of a mural effect. Yeah, and there's just a lot more thought and plan behind the pattern. So those are the top 3 most common repeating patterns that you can use to create your designs. Let me know in the comments which one is your favorite.